Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is your host, Christopher Michael Curtis Bowen, on this second broadcast of Fire of Liberty throughout the entire cosmos, accelerating human expansion and liberty and universal peace eternally. This is actually, maybe I read this, maybe not. I'll start off with chapter 18. Conclusion with the perfection of renunciation. Krishna explains the meaning of renunciation and the effects of the modes of nature on human consciousness and activity. He explains Brahman realization and the glories of the Bhagavad Gita and the ultimate conclusion of the Gita. The highest path of religion is absolute, unconditional, loving service unto Lord Krishna. Arjuna said, O mighty Arjuna, I wish to understand the purpose of Tyaga, or renunciation, and of the renounced order of life, Sannyasa, O killer of the Kesi demon, Hrishikesa. The Supreme Lord said to give up the results of all activities is called renunciation by the wise, and that state is called the renounced order of life by great learned men. Some learned men declare all kinds of fruitive activities should be given up, but there are yet other sages who maintain that acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance should never be abandoned. O best of the Bharatas, hear from me now about renunciation, O tiger of monks. Men, there are three kinds of renunciation declared in scriptures. Acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance are not to be given up, but should be performed. Indeed, sacrifice, charity, and penance purify even the great souls. All these activities should be performed without any expectation of result. They should be performed as a matter of duty, O son of Tha. That is my final opinion. Prescribed duties should never be renounced. If by illusion one gives up his prescribed duties, such renunciation is said to be in the mode of ignorance. And one who gives up prescribed duties as troublesome or out of fear is said to be in the mode of passion. Such action never leads to the elevation of renunciation, but he who performs his prescribed duty only because it ought to be done and renounces all attachment to the fruit, his renunciation is of the nature of goodness. Arjuna, those who are situated in the mode of goodness, who neither hate inauspicious work nor are attached to auspicious work, have no doubts about work. It is indeed impossible for an embodied being to give up all activities. Therefore it is said that he who renounces the fruits of action is one who is truly renounced. For one who has not renounced the threefold fruits of action, desirable, undesirable, and mixed accrue after death. But those who are in the renounced order of life have no such results to suffer or enjoy. O mighty Arjuna, learn from me of the five factors which bring about the accomplishment of all action. These are declared in Sankhya philosophy to be the place of action, the performer, the senses, the endeavor, and ultimately the supersoul. Whatever right or wrong action a man performs by body, mind, or speech is caused by these five factors. Therefore, one who thinks himself the only doer, not considering the five factors, is certainly not very intelligent and cannot see things as they are. One who is not motivated by false ego, whose intelligence is not entangled. Though he kills men in this world, is not the slayer, nor is he bound by his actions. Knowledge, the object of knowledge, and the knower are the three factors which motivate action. The senses, the work, and the doer comprise the threefold base of action. In accordance with the three modes of material nature, there are three kinds of knowledge, action, and performers of action. Listen as I describe them. That knowledge by which one undivided spiritual nature is seen in all existences. Undivided in the divided is knowledge in the mode of goodness. That knowledge by which a different type of living entity is seen to be dwelling in different bodies is knowledge in the mode of passion. And that knowledge by which one is attached to one kind of work as the all in all, without knowledge of the truth, and which is very meager, is said to be in the mode of darkness. As for actions, that action in accordance with duty which is performed without attachment, without love or hate, by one who has renounced fruitative activities is called action in the mode of goodness. But action performed with great effort by one seeking to gratify his desires and which is enacted from a sense of false ego, is called action in the mode of passion, and that action performed in ignorance and delusion without consideration of future bondage or consequences which inflicts injury and is impractical, is said to be action in the mode of ignorance. The worker who is free from all material attachments of false ego, who is enthusiastic and resolute, and who is indifferent to success or failure, is a worker in the mode of goodness. But that worker who is attached to the fruits of his labor and who passionately wants to enjoy them, who is greedy, envious, and impure, and moved by happiness and distress, is a worker in the mode of passion. That worker who is always engaged in work against the injunction of the scripture, who is materialistic, obstinate, cheating, and expert in insulting others, who is lazy, always morose, and procrastinating, is a worker in the mode of ignorance. Now, O winner of wealth, please listen as I tell you in detail of the three kinds of understanding and determination according to the three modes of nature. O son of Tha, that understanding by which one knows what ought to be done and what ought not to be done, what is to be feared and what is not to be feared, what is binding and what is liberating, that understanding is established in the mode of goodness. And that understanding which cannot distinguish between the religious way of life and the irreligious, between action that should be done and action that should not be done, that imperfect understanding, O son of Tha, is in the mode of passion. That understanding which considers irreligion to be religion and religion to be irreligion under the spell of illusion and darkness always strives, or strives always in the wrong direction, O Tha, is in the mode of ignorance. O son of Tha, that determination which is unbreakable, which is sustained with steadfastness by yoga practice, and thus controls the mind, life, and acts of the senses, is in the mode of goodness. And that determination by which one holds fast to fruitive results in religion, economic development, and sense gratification is in the mode of passion, or Arjuna. And that determination which cannot go beyond dreaming, fearfulness, limitation, moroseness, and illusion, such unintelligent determination is in the mode of darkness. O best of the Bharatas, now please hear from me about the three kinds of happiness which the conditioned soul enjoys and by which he sometimes comes to the end of all distress. That which in the beginning may be just like poison, but at the end is just like nectar, which awakens one to self-realization, is said to be happiness. In the mode of goodness, that happiness is derived from contact of the senses with their objects, which appears like nectar at first, but poison at the end, is said to be of the nature of passion. And that happiness which is blind to self-realization, which is delusion from beginning to end, which arises from sleep, laziness, and illusion, is said to be of the mode of ignorance. There is no being existing, either here or among the demigods and higher planetary systems, which is free from the three modes of material nature. Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaisyas, and Sudras are distinguished by their qualities of work, or chastiser of the enemy in accordance with the modes of nature: peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, wisdom, knowledge, and religiousness. These are all qualities by which the Brahmanas work. Heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, courage in battle, generosity, and leadership are the qualities of work for the Kshatriyas. Farming, cattle raising, and business are the qualities of work for the Vaisyas, and the Sudras there is labor and service to others. By following his qualities of work, every man can become perfect. Now hear from me how this can be done by worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all pervading. Man can, in the performance of his own duty, attain perfection. It is better to engage in one's own occupation, even though one may perform it imperfectly, than to accept another's occupation and perform it perfectly. Prescribed duties according to one's nature are never affected by sinful reactions. Every endeavor is covered by some sort of fault, just as fire is covered by smoke. Therefore, one should not give up the work which is born out of his nature, O son of Kutini, or son of Kunti, even if such work is full of faults. One can obtain the results of renunciation simply by self-control and by becoming unattached to material things and discarding material enjoyments. That is the highest perfectional stage of renunciation. O son of Kunti, learn from me in brief how one can attain to the supreme perfectional stage, Brahman, by acting in the way which I shall now summarize. Being purified by his intelligence, controlling the mind with determination, giving up the objects of sense gratification, being freed from attachment and hatred, one who lives in a secluded place, who eats little and controls the body and the tongue, and is always in trance and is detached, who is without false ego, false strength, false pride, lust, anger, and who does not accept material things, such a person is certainly elevated to the position of self-realization. One who is thus transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman. He never laments nor desires to have anything. He is equally disposed to every living entity. In that state he attains pure devotional service unto me. One can understand the Supreme Personality as he is only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of the Supreme Lord, by such devotion he can enter into the kingdom of God, even though engaged in all kinds of activities. My devotee under my protection reaches the eternal and imperishable abode of my grace, and all activities just depend upon me and work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. If you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. If you do not act according to my direction and do not fight, then you will be falsely directed by your nature. You will have to be engaged in warfare under illusion. You are now declining to act according to my direction, but compelled by your own nature, you will act all the same, O son of Kunti. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living beings who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. O scion of Bharata, surrender unto him utterly. By his grace he will attain transcendental peace and the supreme and eternal abode. Thus I have explained to you the most confidential of all knowledge. Deliberate on this fully, then do what you wish to do. Because you are my very dear friend, I am speaking to you the most confidential part of knowledge. Hear this from me, for it is for your benefit. Always think of me and become my devotee. Worship me and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail, I promise you this. Because you are my very dear friend, abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. This confidential knowledge may not be explained to those who are not austere or devoted or engaged in devotional service, nor to one who is envious of me. For one who explains the supreme secret to the devotees, devotional service is guaranteed, and at the end he will come back to me. There is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. And I declare that he who studies this sacred conversation worships me by his intelligence, and one who listens with faith and without envy becomes free from sinful reaction and attains to the planets where the pious dwell. O conqueror of wealth, Arjuna, have you heard this attentively with your mind, and are your illusions and ignorance now dispelled? Arjuna said, My dear Krishna, O infallible one, my illusion is now gone. I have regained my memory by your mercy, and I am now firm and free from doubt, and I am prepared to act according to your instructions. Sanjaya said, Thus have I heard the conversation of two great souls, Krishna and Arjuna, and so wonderful is that message that my hair is standing on end by the mercy of Vyasa. I have heard these most confidential talks directly from the master of all mysticism, Krishna, who is speaking personally to Arjuna. O king, as I repeatedly recall this wondrous and holy dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna, I take pleasure being thrilled at every moment. O king, when I remember the wonderful form of Krishna, I am struck with even greater wonder, and I rejoice again and again. Wherever there is Krishna, the master of all mystics, and wherever there is Arjuna, the supreme archer, there will also certainly be opulence, victory, extraordinary power, and morality. That is my opinion. And the yoga of the Supreme Person, the ultimate purpose of Vedic knowledge is to detach oneself from the entanglement of the material world and to understand Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One who understands Krishna's supreme identity surrenders unto him and engages in his devotional service. The Blessed Lord said, There is a banyan tree which has its roots upward and its branches downward, whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. The branches of this tree extend downward and upward, nourished by the three modes of nature. The three modes of material nature. The twigs are the objects of the senses. This tree also has roots going down, and these are bound to the fruitive actions of human society. The real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, or where its foundation is, but that with determination one must cut down this tree with the weapon of detachment. So doing, one must seek that place from which once gone one never returns. Then and their surrender to that Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom everything has begun and whom everything is abiding since time immemorial. One who is free from illusion, false prestige, and false association, who understands the eternal, who is done with material lust and is freed from the duality of happiness and distress, and who knows how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attains to that eternal kingdom. That abode of mine is not illumined by the sun nor moon, nor by electricity. One who reaches it never returns to this material world. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to the conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. The living entity in the material world carries its different conceptions of life from one body to another, as the air carries aromas. The living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, which are grouped about by the mind. He thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects. The foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body, nor can they understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of the modes of nature. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all this. The endeavoring transcendentalist, who is situated in self-realization, can see all this clearly, but those who are not situated in self-realization cannot see what is taking place, though they may try to. The splendor of the sun, which dissipates the darkness of this whole world, comes from me, and the splendor of the moon and the splendor of fire are also from me. I enter into each planet in my energy. They stay in orbit. I become the moon, and thereby supply the juice of life to all vegetables. I am the fire of digestion in every living body. I am the air of life, outgoing and incoming, by which I digest the four kinds of foodstuff. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness, and by the Vedas I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. There are two classes of beings, the fallible and infallible. In the material world, every entity is fallible, and in the spiritual world, every entity is infallible. Besides these two, there is the greatest living personality, the Lord himself, who has entered into these worlds and is maintaining them. Because I am transcendental, beyond both the fallible and infallible, and because I am the greatest, I am celebrated both in the world and in the Vedas as the Supreme Person. Whoever knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead without doubting is to be understood as the knower of everything, and he therefore engages himself in full devotional service. O son of Bharata,